Hello, my dear friends, my English-speaking followers, astrology lovers. Welcome to my channel. My name is Olga Vasilchuk, and I have a very special video for you today about the ingression of the lunar nodes in the signs Gemini Sagittarius. Today, on the 5th of May, the nodes will enter the axis Gemini Sagittarius, and they will stay in these signs until January 18, 2022. I remind you that the nodes were in the signs Cancer, Capricorn from November 6, 2018 until today, May 5, the 5th of May 2020. I would like to start with a general overview of the lunar nodes, of the subject of the lunar nodes. The human being, possessor of an immortal soul, comes back to Earth each time in a new incarnation with the goal of pursuing his evolution. Therefore, its essence within an isolated incarnation is neither a common fact nor a static phenomena, but a dynamic process. Each soul has its own path, its unique mission, its destiny. For each soul, an exclusive program is intended, as well as individual lessons and tests. We all are equal before God in the sense that the rules are the same for everyone at the school of life. The soul expands its consciousness through the sphere of earthly experience, often painful so, overcoming obstacles, making detours, sometimes finding itself in an impasse until it finds its way to truth. The Supreme Being has never left man to himself, condemned to wander without understanding what to do, not knowing how to live or what direction to take. Throughout the history of mankind, moral laws have been received in the form of commandments through enlightened people and spiritual revelations. But it is not our one and only clue. In our lives, we often meet people who show us the direction, in an obvious manner or sometimes more subtly so. The Absolute uses various ways to communicate what is expected from us. We just have to be able to read the signs on our way. How can astrology help us in this search? Astrology is the objective and accurate tool for the assessment of our level of self-development. In the birth chart of each person is encrypted the axis of her destiny. This axis determines life lessons and unavoidable situations of destiny, and it is determined by the position of the lunar nodes from the south to the north node, from the descending node towards the ascending one. The lunar nodes are 2 points of the interaction between the lunar and terrestrial orbit. They are formed during the passage of the moon from the southern hemisphere to the northern hemisphere. The nodes slowly rotate around the Earth clockwise and make a complete revolution in 18 years and a half. In the horoscope, they are always positioned in opposite signs of the zodiac. For example, if the north node is in Aries, the south node will be in Libra, the 6th sign after Aries, and so on. Approximately every 18 months, the position of the lunar nodes in the signs changes. The position of the south node, the ascending node, or Ketu, it's also called the dragon's tail, its position in a sign and a house of the chart helps in determining the innate characteristics of the person, her abilities, talents, and traits. All these things that manifest easily and effortlessly, naturally and unconsciously, since they were acquired in the previous incarnation. The south node is the key to the deepest layers of our psychology. It describes the most entrenched patterns of our reactions. If we rely on these familiar reactions too much, we will find ourselves in an internal impasse. It is because the south pole of the chart is the path of least resistance. It is the way the water flows from the top of a mountain to its foot. And when energy is not flowing into the desirable pole, from an evolutionary point of view, it inevitably accumulates in the opposite pole. A person loses huge opportunities for evolution if she remains in this state and if she resists the necessity to go forward in her evolutionary path, a pathway which requires efforts made in a new direction. But one should not sacrifice what was given to him at birth, but should rather use it as a strength and advantage. The new direction is indicated by the North Node, Rahu, or the ascending node, which is also called the dragon's head. It tells man how he can advantage of the opportunities offered to him by his destiny. The position of the North Node determines the type of behavior and reactions to adopt, preferably in moments of external challenges. The behavior that can open new paths and help a person solve her problem. Here we're talking about new actions to undertake, new talents to develop, the goals to which a person should aspire, and difficult steps on the path towards their achievement. The North Node defines the true mission of a person, the way to move forward in her spiritual evolution. It characterizes our attitude towards the future and towards everything that is unfamiliar to us. In the periods when we turn 18, 19, 70, 37, 38, 56, 57, and 74, 75 years old, lunar nodes return into their initial positions. These are key moments in one's life as they force a person to evaluate and reconsider her life experiences, to find the causes of her successes and failures. They provide an opportunity for adjusting one's plans for the future based on the past results. These are critical and sometimes fatal years. The age of 18, 19 years old is the time when the first effect of the integration of the lunar nodes manifests themselves. The person begins an independent life, and this time is marked by the painful psychological transition from childhood to adulthood. The period of 37, 38 years old marks the principal test of maturity. It is a time of deep crisis and internal restructuring. This period is characterized mainly by such events as the first adulteries, attempt to marry again, by weight gain or weight loss, by the loss of a job or the search of a new one. One's whole life is undergoing radical changes. Objectives evolve, new goals and new tastes appear, one meets new partners, etc. It is also an age characterized by statistical peaks in deaths, when a lot of young people die even though they were healthy and at the height of their life and talents. Why does this happen? Why does this happen? Whether we want it or not, whether we are conscious of it or not, we must often solve problems of a cosmic nature rather than personal problems, and that regardless of our abilities or what we do in life. This is why we often see, for example, an astronaut suddenly becoming a preacher, a doctor becoming a writer, a journalist becoming a parapsychologist, or the son of a lawyer getting involved in politics. We fight for love, and it suddenly seems to be a burden. We receive an education, and we fail to apply it in real life. We acquire wealth, and we lose it in one day. We improve our health, and we die in an accident. All these unforeseen events are the work of the lunar nodes. But here we are not talking about making a categorical choice between two directions, the South Node or the North Node. It is very important not to go into extremes, but rather to find a balance, because it is balance that will make a person evolve. If the balance is upset in an exclusive pursuit of the future, the person rejects the experience of the past, burning bridges behind her and ultimately losing all stable ground. Losing his ground, one also loses the vision of the appropriate direction to follow. If the balance is disturbed in favor of an attachment to the past, the person refuses to accept changes, wants everything in her life to go according to patterns established in the past, a time during which she was finding her way more easily. This is a natural attachment, since these are patterns with which the person feels confident, but it blocks her evolution. She then starts to go around in circles. Ideally, one would establish a balance between the two nodes, because this balance brings quality of life, and general well-being. But if this balance is not found, the person will live in the past or will constantly be thinking about tomorrow. The question is a particular event a reflection of old and familiar situations, or is it a sign of new and unexplored situations? It is a real art to be able to live the present day and to know which of our actions are related to our past, and similarly, it is also a big challenge to identify actions that will affect our future and to be aware of how they will influence it. This art is definitely the heritage of wise people, but our life is given to us so that we can acquire wisdom. You should know the word Ouroboros from ancient Greek, Ouro, tail, and boros, devouring, literally devouring its tail. The serpent-like dragon, which is coiled on itself and bites its own tail, is one of the oldest symbols used in religions, magic, alchemy, mythology, and psychology. The Ouroboros is a Gnostic symbol that represents infinity, cyclical time and continuity in the process of life, the cycle of loss and restoring of integrity, the strength that always exhausts and recovers itself, truth and knowledge, all these meanings in one symbol. And you should also know that in Hinduism, the Ouroboros is associated with the wheel of samsara, which symbolizes the consecutive rebirths. The doctrine of reincarnation implies that when the intangible origin of an individual is tied to a new body after the decomposition of its previous structure of incarnation, it retains the mental faculties and the assets corresponding to the result of the previous existence in accordance with the law of karma. This law, as the image of suffering, is not an inherent quality, but is rather a consequence of a free choice of man in favor of evil, resulting in many punishments and repeated incarnations. Therefore, Hindu philosophers argued that it is possible to stop the wheel of samsara through liberation. The dragon sometimes gets the tail out of his mouth and sometimes swallows it further down, as if he was playing with man by reducing his margin of maneuver, a person's life being confined between the rings of the dragon's body. To unchain these rings and to pass through their connecting link between the head and the tail of the dragon is the ultimate purpose of every being. I would like to remind you the position of the nodes in the signs of Cancer, Capricorn. This is the axis of the signs where the nodes have been for the past 18 months. And then we will talk about Gemini, Sagittarius. So the axis Cancer, Capricorn is the axis of responsibility, and its goal is to learn to take care of ourselves while taking care of others. Something which can take the form of duties towards family and society. The Cancer wants to be reassured that he will receive care and safety while satisfying his emotional needs in the field of his personal and familial responsibilities. But Capricorn also looks for security and support, but through social order and the rules of law, thus focusing on fulfilling his professional duties. Both signs are in search of a balance between egoism and selflessness. The Cancer is looking for emotional and spiritual connection through care of others, for others. This is how he satisfies his personal psychological needs. If he becomes too absorbed in caring for others, he can become extremely dependent and in the end feel quite unhappy, or he can turn into an internal protector, giving everything but afraid of receiving anything in return. The earth sign of Capricorn is more concerned about the needs of society and acts on the material and concrete levels, motivated by physical and material order. He's convinced that he will satisfy his own material needs if he assumes responsibility towards the protection of the social order. But in cases when the Capricorn ends up thinking about personal ambitions more than duty, he will tend to use power for his own personal ends. So the Cancer-Capricorn axis teaches us how to find balance between our familial duties and our social responsibilities. It also teaches us to understand that when we cannot help ourselves, we cannot expect help from others. And by helping others, we also show them how to take responsibility for their own lives. Now the axis Gemini-Sagittarius. The Gemini-Sagittarius axis is the axis of the mental, and its goal is to learn to balance the lower and the higher mind. The Gemini explores the world, collects information, establishes contacts, while the Sagittarius tends to look for a unique concept, a supreme truth. The role of the Gemini is to study his environment, to reunite what was separated. They have a knack for all types of languages and tools of communication, and they have an insatiable curiosity. The Gemini explores both sides of any situation, comparing the opposite elements. It reflects the duality inherent to this sign, but the Gemini often lack the concentration and attention necessary to put things in perspective and see the big picture. He's entirely devoted to a quest for the absolute truth in the theoretical, philosophical, spiritual, and theological fields. The Sagittarius wants to bring an end to duality by reuniting opposites. He risks unintentionally hurting the feelings of other people who may have personal convictions and different ideas about truth. He also risks becoming obsessed with finding the universal truth, convinced that the goal always justifies the means. So the Gemini-Sagittarius axis teaches us how to maintain our curiosity and flexibility, guided by a higher consciousness and philosophy. It teaches us the importance of communicating with ourselves and others without forgetting the quest for universal truth. Now we can have two options of the position of the nodes. The South Node in Gemini, the North Node in Sagittarius. The gift of the South Node in Gemini is a thirst for knowledge of the world, a sharp mind open to all sorts of new ideas, an enthusiasm for variety and new concepts. The trap, a lack of focus and a certain difficulty in compiling information, which can lead the person into a type of behavior about which we can say she tries everything but she cannot complete anything. The goal here is to learn how to gather information and organize it, to look for what reunites dualities. If he cooperates with the Sagittarius, the Gemini will be able to draw from a well of information and understanding of the working of the universe, as well as an understanding of our place in it on a larger scale. The South Node in Sagittarius, the North Node in Gemini. The gift of the South Node in Sagittarius is the understanding of the relationship between the universe and society, a very strong system of beliefs and a philosophy of life that helps one express his personality. The trap here is the following. If the person clings too strongly to her beliefs and does not accept other people's opinions, she risks developing the "I'm more pure than you" type of attitude and the tendency described as she talks, but she doesn't do anything. The goal of the person in this configuration of the nodes is to learn to share general information in the way the Gemini does it so well, and to apply the strong beliefs of the Sagittarius to everyday life and to her environment. She will then discover that the absolute truth has many different manifestations. Now, if we focus on Rahu, which indicates the way to the evolutionary development of a particular incarnation, now transit Rahu passes from Cancer to Gemini. I invite you to think about the symbolism of the sign of Cancer and about the sign of Gemini, preceding it from the point of view of the movement of the signs in the zodiacal wheel. Gemini precedes Cancer, and the nodes move clockwise. If you were talking about the zodiacal signs as about symbolic stages of life development, as about levels and stages of adaptation to the reality, and not as about astropsychological characteristics of people born under this or that zodiacal sign, Then the transition from the stage of the sign of Gemini to the stage of the sign of Cancer would be a transition from life as an eternal worry, from life in society of people with whom you must share all your thoughts and ideas, to life as a process of survival and satisfaction of the basic needs. The sign of Gemini preceding Cancer symbolizes the respect for the rights of others. If the individual wants to preserve, if he doesn't want to lose the society that surrounds him, because he needs the society to survive. But this is not enough. The mission of Gemini is also to spread his understanding of the world to the myriad of people he meets during his lifetime. And at the same time, we must know how to see the world through the eyes of others. If you want to understand why people don't listen to us, we have to put ourselves in their place. Ultimately, we will realize that all the negative traits that we attribute to others are the traits that we do not understand in ourselves. On the next stage of evolution, corresponding to the sign of Cancer, our greatest vital need is the need to find our small place in the big world, to meet the conditions in which we would feel protected, secure, having the minimum to satisfy our biological needs. At this stage, what is also important for us is also to know ourselves as well as our deep inner motivations. So the ingression of the lunar nodes from the signs of Cancer, Rahu moves from Cancer to Gemini, and Ketu moves from Capricorn to Sagittarius. On May 5th, will determine the themes of the eclipses from summer 2020 until autumn-winter 2022. By the beginning of summer 2020, after the attempts to build a new order, according to the sign of Cancer, by focusing on what is the basis of our reality, on what is the foundation of life plans, we will move on to that stage in our life, in society, when we care about everyday things, when we consider the options and views of others, when we seek new paths in life, when we spread ideas, even popularizing them. What else does life in society, according to the sign of Gemini, consist of? It is the most direct participation in the life of society. It is the role of a specialist in communication, a group work related to education and teaching, the activity of a writer, teacher, speaker. It is the creation of new educational systems, but it is essential, first of all, to learn to express ourselves successfully in front of other people, to give up faith in gurus and books, exploring endless opportunities. On our way to the northern node in Gemini, there will be multiple encounters with other people who need to break free from the old doctrines. And we will be able, I hope, to help them with this while testing and casting doubt on the dominating worldview. And yes, you know that the lunar nodes move in the opposite direction of the movement of the zodiac. The nodes symbolize the relationship of cause and effect in our life, the law of karma. The model of our current life, the pattern of our current life is closely related to the rights and obligations received at the moment of birth of the current incarnation, and fulfilling our obligations leads to spiritual growth, and this cannot be avoided. No one has the total free will, except the most spiritually awakened individuals. And the lunar nodes are the points that contain the concentration of the tasks that relate to fate and free will. These are the portals through which the karmic factor operates, through which the supreme universal force interacts with man. In the spiritual sense, the retrograde movement of the axis of destiny, of the axis of the lunar nodes, implies that everything that happens in the present has its roots in the past. Thank you very much for your attention. Take care of yourself and talk to you very soon. Goodbye.